Hello guys, today I want to talk about a pretty simple topic called lactic acidosis. Now, what is the definition of lactic acidosis? Lactic acidosis is nothing but increase in lactic acid concentration in the blood. Increase of lactic acid concentration in the blood is called lactic acidosis. That is nothing but there would be a threshold concentration of lactic acid in the blood, right? Increase of that concentration, increase above that concentration would lead to lactic acidosis actually. Okay, how many types of lactic acidosis are there? There are two types, right? Actually, mild form of lactic acidosis and severe form of lactic acidosis, right? Mild form of lactic acidosis, it may be caused due to strenuous exercises, right? Due to heavy exercises, it can lead to lactic acidosis, right? Shock may also lead to lactic acidosis. Respiratory diseases and low pDH activity. pDH here is nothing but pyruvate dehydrogenase, right? Yeah, in that all this glycolysis and DC cycle in between, that is, there is a pDH reaction, right? In that reaction, this is involved for the conversion of pyruvate into acetyl-CoA, right? I think so, you got it right. Okay, due to this low activity of pDH, lactic acidosis occurs. Now I made a round here, right? Why did I do that? Because I want to tell you that how low pDH activity would actually lead to lactic acidosis. Because see, low pDH activity in the sense it may cause that is nothing but see, pyruvate, right? It is involved in a reaction called pDH reaction. That is nothing but conversion of pyruvate into acetyl-CoA, right? Conversion of pyruvate into acetyl-CoA is called pDH reaction. In that, pyruvate dehydrogenase enzyme is involved, right? See, if this enzyme is deficient, it is low actually. So this conversion is obstructed here, right? This conversion is obstructed totally. So it leads to accumulation of pyruvate, right? This accumulation of pyruvate would eventually lead to an alternate pathway which includes the conversion of pyruvate into lactic acid, right? The conversion of pyruvate into lactic acid, right? In the presence of LDH, that is lactic acid dehydrogenase enzyme, right? Okay, I think so, you got it. Due to that, more and more accumulation of pyruvate will lead to more and more formation of lactic acid. In that way, it can lead to lactic acidosis, right? Now we'll check out the other forms, right? The severe forms, right? It may be due to myocardial infarction, it's a disease, right? Pulmonary embolism, it is also a disease, right? And uncontrolled hemorrhage, all these may cause severe form of lactic acidosis. Now, how all these diseases, the complex diseases, may cause lactic acidosis, right? How these diseases are linked up with the lactic acid concentration in the blood? I'll tell you how. See, in all these diseases, right? In all these cases, there is inadequate supply of oxygen, right? There in all these diseases, all three diseases which I have mentioned here, right? There is a deficient supply of oxygen there. So due to that condition, inadequate supply of oxygen, we can call it as anaerobic. Can we? Yeah, we can, right? We can call it as anaerobic condition also, right? Now, anaerobic condition facilitates the formation of glycolysis. That nothing but anaerobic glycolysis, conversion of pyruvate into lactic acid. Yeah, I wrote that here, right? There is nothing but this pathway is called, the alternate pathway here is called anaerobic glycolysis. This anaerobic glycolysis occurs only in anaerobic condition. That's why the name anaerobic glycolysis, right? Due to this, in these diseases, there is a deficient supply of oxygen to the tissues due to these diseases. Due to that, there is a condition brought there called anaerobic condition. That anaerobic condition facilitates the formation of pyruvate into lactic acid, right? That is the main reason these diseases can cause lactic acidosis, right? More and more conversion of pyruvate to lactic acid may lead to lactic acidosis, right? Yeah, I hope so, you got this lactic acidosis, right? There is now a topic linked with lactic acidosis is called oxygen depth. To understand what is oxygen depth, we'll take an example, right? There's a tissue called A. I named this tissue as A, right? Now, in this tissue, in this tissue, lactic acid concentration, that's nothing but lactic acid concentration from this tissue has been increasing a lot. Drastically it has been increasing, right? Lactic acid concentration, lactate, I'll write it as lactate concentration is increased, right? It is increased. Why it can be increased actually? Why it can be increased? See, I've already told you that lactic acid formation takes place from pyruvate only in the anaerobic condition. Now, there is an increased formation of lactic acid. That means that in this tissue there is an anaerobic condition, right? That means that in this tissue there is an anaerobic condition. That's why here also in all these diseases, in those tissues, there due to these diseases there has been a condition which evolved there, that is called as anaerobic condition. Due to that, this lactic acidosis took place there, right? So this is the main stuff, right? Anaerobic condition actually. So here we got a clue that lactic acid concentration has been increased in this tissue called A, right? So from this we can conclude that there has been an anaerobic condition which has been there in that tissue actually. Due to that, lactic acid concentration is increased, right? So this anaerobic condition, can we call it as decreased oxygen? Can we call it as decreased oxygen supply, right? Now, this decreased oxygen supply is also called as oxygen depth, right? What is meant by depth actually? What is meant by depth? Depth is nothing but something less, right? Right, something less. That's nothing but oxygen which is less in quantity. That is nothing but anaerobic condition. That anaerobic condition would eventually lead to increased lactic acid concentration. Now that's why there is a interesting thing here, that is in clinical purposes usually this oxygen depth, that means this lactic acid concentration plays a key role to identify oxygen depth, right? Whether if the plasma concentration of lactic acid is very high, then that patient is considered to have oxygen depth. So that's how clinically it is very important actually. Oxygen depth and lactic acid concentration relation, it's very important actually. So that's all for this video, guys. Lactic acidosis and oxygen depth, it's a very short video actually. That's the whole concept present here. No confusion actually, how lactic acidosis occurs, why it occurs, and what are the forms of it, and what are the causes for mild forms and for severe forms, and how in which condition lactic acidosis may occur, and what is the oxygen depth with an example I have shown here, right? Hope you may understand that. So that's all for today's video, guys. If you like the video, then press the like button. Comment down below if you want any further new in my presentation. So support by subscribing the channel, guys. Thank you. Cheers.